Hey guys, welcome back to my colourful country life. It is time today for my September completed pages. I think I have eight completed pages to show you this month. September was a big month for me. We had my daughter's 13th birthday, we went on a mini vacation, so much was happening, and now the kids are on school holidays, so I apologise in advance if you hear any background noise. I did know that I wouldn't be able to have as much colouring time during September, but I still have a lot of fun pages to show you today, so let's move this out of the way and get straight into it. Alright, let's start with our full book colour along from Rooms of Wonder by Joanna Basford, and I'm just going to zoom you guys in a little bit. Okay, so I was on a roll with this book this month and I've coloured 3 pages. So every page from this book is a colour along up on the channel. There is a dedicated playlist for this book as well. Any video that I do mention today, I will link in the video description if you want to go check them out. So let's just start from the beginning here. And first off we have, I think I'm gonna have to zoom you out again. One sec. All right, that's better. So first off we have the introduction double pages. I really enjoyed colouring these pages, and every time I have flipped through this book, I've been drawn to them. I normally leave the intro pages to the very end of the book, but I just really wanted to colour them. So I did toss up a few ideas for different mediums. Now, the flowers are quite tiny. I did think about using gel pens, but they just wouldn't have given me the dimension that I wanted. So my next choice was actually watercolour pencils. I did think of using my Albrecht Dürers on this page, and I think they would have actually worked wonderfully here too. You could have used maybe one shade of your Albrecht Dürers and then activate it so it's darker at one end and then gradually gets lighter. And you'd have a gradient there without having to add any more details. But I did decide to go with pencils as they are my preferred medium. And if you have watched my colour alongs, you'll know that I do use a lot of colours in just one combination. So I needed to come up with some combos of I think about 3 pencils just to fit into the small spaces and still give myself a bit of dimension so you can still see the shadows and the highlights. For the background, I wanted to keep it simple, so soft pastels would have worked. That was my first option, but I do love the effect of a pencil background, so I did use that instead. I also started off planning a spring colour palette with oranges, reds, pinks, yellows, and then it morphed into what you see today. So I really do love this colour palette actually. So I enjoyed colouring these pages immensely, which is a happy surprise as I don't normally reach for these type of pages. So for all the pencil work, I use Prismacolor pencils, and that includes the background too. For this shimmering border here, I used my KJ Design by Karen metallic watercolors, and I was actually tossing up between a gold border or this sort of magenta color. What I did was I swatched both of the paints onto a scrap piece of paper and I held it up against the side of the page just to see which color would suit it best, and it both did suit, but the overall effect was so different with both colors, and I really like the effect with this sort of magenta pink background the best, so that's why I went with that color instead of the gold, but the gold would still suit as well. I've also added a few more metallic accents with my Jelly Roll metallic gold pen, so just in the center of the flowers here and on the stars and these keys as well. And we've got some Jelly Roll glaze in black on the flower centers as well, and a small amount, just a really teeny tiny amount of white Tooly Art paint pens to add just a couple of little highlights. I did consider going in and using my white acrylic paint pen to cover all these little black dots that are on here, and I'll lift it up to show you, but I just thought that would be a little bit overpowering. So there's just a couple that were on the bigger dots in the corners and over here, just to add a little bit of interest without overpowering the page. So you can see that background, the glaze, and hopefully also some of that Jelly Roll as well. So that is our first page, and the next one is this page here. So I decided to use a similar palette to match the origami room. For the origami room, I used only Albrecht Dürers activated, so wet, and then dry on top to add shadow. So for this page, I actually used my Albrecht Dürers activated just for basing, and then I went over the top with my polychromos just to add in my shading. that way instead, which I preferred. I do prefer the finish of the polychromos to the finish of the Albrecht Duras when they're dry. Some embellishments on the elements of this page with some Jelly Roll pens, sparkle pop pens and Toy Art paint pens as well. So we added quite a bit of sparkle onto this page. I used all the different types of Jelly Rolls. So there's some glaze, there's some stardust, there's some metallic, all sorts of things going on there. And I think that's the silver sparkle pop as well. And these little borders here are the Jelly Roll metallic gold. So I added in these circular borders or these frames to the images just to add some interest onto the page, and so they're no longer just floating objects. And then I coloured the background of each of these little circular motifs using my Arteza soft pastels. I used a different colour for each circle just based on colours that I had used in the illustration as well, and I do like the end result. I think the two pages look really good next to each other actually. It was nerve-wracking actually outlining these circles with the Jelly Roll gold metallic pen. I was originally going to use just a black fine liner like I used on this page, but I just was a little bit nervous about my hand control. The pressure is on when you're trying to get something nice and straight. Well, it's curved but straight, you know what I mean, especially when it's on camera. So I decided to go with the Jelly Roll metallic because it's a little bit more forgiving. So and I think it looks really good too. And our third page that we coloured in this book was the other side of this magical double page. Now I say double page, although there are actually separate designs, but a lot of the pages in this book do have like a room on one page and then objects that appear in that room on the next page. So I tend to look at them as if they're double page spreads, but you can colour them as completely separate images if you prefer. But because these had similar elements, I coloured them with similar colours as well. So like the last page that we looked at, I have drawn on the colours from the opposite page to colour this page. I did decide to forego a background. I'm not a fan of floating objects on a page, but I really like the page as it is. I think the crisp white background does suit the page, and I didn't want to add too much to the page either in case it distracted from the main images. So I did think of like putting like little boxes around, or just putting little lines underneath here, maybe with a little bit of watercolor paint. But then in my head I need to follow these sort of lines that are already there, and it kind of cuts halfway through, so they're not really like, it's not like it's halfway through the object, so they're not actually sitting on a shelf, they'll just have a line through the center. So I decided against that one as well. And so both of these pages are obviously color alongs, because all the pages in this book are color alongs. And for this page I did use Prismacolor pencils, and I have embellished the page with Jelly Roll pens, sparkle pop pens, and Toy Art paint pens too. So the Toy Art white is what I've used. I just lift it up, doesn't have too much sparkle in there, just a tiny little bit, so I don't know how noticeable it's going to be, but lift it closer for you to have a look. So that were all of our pages from Rooms of Wonder this month. So next up, let's take a look at Phantom Morphia by Kirby Roseanne's, and this is only my second page coloured in this book. It's probably my least favourite out of all of Kirby's books, but there are some beautiful images in here that I do really want to colour, and this page was one of them, and I'm really pleased with the end result. This might be my favourite page this month, I think, so far. And there is a colour along up on the channel too, so I love the delicate colour palette that I've used, the crisp white background. I was originally thinking of blacking the background out, but I like it as is. It was also a lot quicker to colour than it probably looks. So the clock mechanisms take up the majority of this page, and then the leaves as well. So once those two elements were all coloured, there wasn't actually that much left on the page to do. So yeah, I coloured all the clockwork first, and then there wasn't that much left. And this page was coloured entirely with Prismacolor pencils. I have used some extreme glitter just on my dragonfly wings here. And for the clock hands, I use my KJ Design by Karen metallic paints just to get it to stand out more from the rest of the clock. And I have used some Toy Art white paint pens for highlights. I think the Toolie Art white paint pen has taken over from my Signo White as my new favourite white pen. And you'll probably be seeing the KJ design by Karen paints mentioned on nearly every page this month. It is my new obsession. So that is the page from Phantom Morphia by Kirby Roseanne's, which you can see in the colour along up on the channel, and that's our little bit of sparkle just there in the centre. Okay, so next, let's look at Fragile World by Kirby Roseanne's. Let's just talk about Fragile World for a quick moment. I have noticed over the last couple of months I have been feeling a little at a loss for what to colour next. This is likely partly due to having too many books to choose from, which is not necessarily a bad problem to have, first world problems and all that. Anyway, after a bit of reflection last month, I did decide that I really miss my Kirby full book colour alongs. I like to have a goal to work towards or a specific direction in mind to inspire me or energize me, and that was the last 5 years of my life colouring Kirby Roseanne's full book colour alongs. I was putting off any more full book colour alongs. How many times have I said full book colour alongs in these sentences? Until the new release from Kirby in March next year, but that is ages away, so I decided it'd be fun to have a placeholder book, so to speak, something to focus on until that book was released next year. So I did do a poll and Fragile Worlds won, which I had a feeling it would, as I do get questions about this book quite frequently actually. So for the next few months, Fragile World will be a focus book for us, and I will attempt to fill it up as much as I can before Dark Fairy Tales is released. Now, I know a lot of people really wanted Mythomorphia to win the poll. Clearly not as much as Fragile Worlds, because Fragile Worlds won, but a lot of people were looking forward to Mythomorphia, so I will also work towards colouring a couple of pages in Mythomorphia too, but this will be our focus book, our project book, until March of next year. Also, just a little side note while we are on the topic of full book colour alongs, once I finish with Joanna's Rooms of Wonder, I will put up a poll to choose another book for a full book colour along, which is not a Kirby book, and perhaps maybe not even a Joanna book, so something different perhaps next time, but we'll work that all out when the time comes. So there will always be two on the go, one Kirby and one something else. So the page I coloured in Fragile World this month is the European hamster. This guy is the cutest. I looked up images of European hamsters on Pinterest before I coloured the page, and I think I need one as a pet. They're so adorable. So obviously it's a colour along up on the channel. There is a voiceover throughout parts of that video, just explaining the techniques and stuff. Now, I did add a comment onto that video that my manual subtitles weren't working. They still aren't. You should be able to see subtitles on this video as it's purely me talking, so YouTube adds them automatically because I've selected for them to do automatic subtitles. Accessibility is highly important to me. I want everyone to have access to my content without any barriers. So I am working with YouTube now to try to solve the issue. So how subtitles works is if your video is over a certain length and there's more music than talking, they'll not automatically include subtitles, but you can enter them manually. Usually I can just go through the video, type them out and upload the document, and YouTube will generate the timings for me as well, just to know where to put each sentence throughout the video. This option is not available to me right now, and neither is manually typing in the words with the timings done by myself, which is actually so time consuming and painful, but it's not even allowing me to do that right now. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of it. And if you do like when I add voiceovers, I can perhaps do more videos like that in the future. Just let me know down below. But I just want you all to let you all know that I am trying to get the subtitles up so everyone can have access to the videos. So back to the page. Now, the sunset background was coloured with Distress inks. I absolutely love how smooth and vibrant this has come out, and it was really quick to do as well. Now, in the voiceover, I do talk through the process of how I blend my inks together. There's also a video on my channel on how to use Distress inks for beginners as well, which I will link down below in the video description. And if you want to follow along and you don't have Distress inks, you can do a similar sunset with Polychromo's pencils. There are a few combos on my orange colour combo worksheet that would work for this background. You can use your Albrecht Dürers if you have them instead as well, and use the same colours. So the colour combos that I've done for Polychromos will work exactly the same for the Albrecht Dürers too. So For the greenery, I did base everything with Albrecht Dürer pencils. I activated them and then went in with my polychromos on top to add in shading. And I also based the hamster with my Albrecht Dürers too. I think that was it. Just the greenery and the hamster. And then everything else is polychromos. I do love using polychromos in this book. I have used my Tuli Art white paint pen for all of the white details. KJ designed by Karen again in the gold and also in the pink here on the butterfly. I'll just quickly lift this up. I finished my page off with my Imagine Crafts Shimmer Spray in Sparkle, and I'll show you that when I lift it up in a minute. After I sprayed, I did have an oh no moment, as water can affect the distress inks and leave marks. It didn't occur to me until I started spraying, and then I had a bit of a panic attack. Thankfully, it didn't mess up my blend. You can see maybe a little mark down here where the mist wasn't so fine. Otherwise, my background, my page is still blended and intact. Actually, I didn't check if there was any bleed through. No, we're all good. Okay, let me lift that up so you can see that beautiful smooth blend and hopefully that sparkle as well. You can see those little dots there where the water has had a bit of an effect on the distress ink. Hopefully you can see the sparkle from Karen's paint, the KJ designed by Karen. You can see that gold that I've added down the bottom there as well. Well, hopefully you can see it because I can't see my camera. So that was our page from Fragile World. I couldn't remember what book I'm in then. Fragile World by Curvy Roseanne's for this month. Okay, next up let's look at Fairy Tales and Folklore by Emily Lederhol Oberg. I absolutely adore this book. I do have a review up on my channel, but there wasn't a colour along for this page. I just wanted to test the paper out so I could provide a thorough review for you all, and I will pop a link to that video down below if you're interested in having a look. Now, I did find this paper to be a little bit difficult. I did have to work extra hard with my Prismas to try to get a good blend. The paper is actually wonderfully thick. You can hear that there. It's really thick paper, but I think it needed to have a little bit more tooth. I'll try some other pencils in it and just see what works best for me. This was Prismacolor pencils, and I mean I did get the Prismas to work, but I did have to work for it more than usual, and I like things to be easy. So I'm going to try Polly's next, but I did see a comment on my review video that someone else had a similar issue with their polychromos too, so I'm not sure, but I will test them. I might even just test all my pencils on a page in the back of the book or something. Is there anything back here that I can test them on? Maybe, yeah, actually I can probably test them out on the forward, or I might test them out on this page because I can colour each flower with a different pencil perhaps. I might try that and see which pencils work best. Let me know if you'd like to see that as a video or not, or I'll just do a test and let you all know what I think works best. So, but what works best for me might not necessarily work best for you, but I will figure out a way around it though, because this book is too beautiful not to colour in. So, like I said, I use Prismacolor pencils for this page. There is some Jelly Roll glaze in black here for the border. I've used my KJ designed by Karen paints and my white Tuli Art paint pen as well. So the white Tuli Art paint pen you can see just here on all those little dots, and you can see the gold colour, which is, it's called Golden by KJ designed by Karen, and then that magenta colour there again, which is Gerbera. And I did close my book a little bit too early, and some of the paint has gone on to the other page, but that's okay because it's not a colouring page, so I don't need to worry about covering that up. That is our page from Fairy Tales and Folklore by Emily Lederhol Oberg. I did mention in the review video a couple of pages that we might do as a colour along, so let me know if you'd like to see colour along from this book in October. Next up, I've got A Million Sea Creatures by Lulu Mayo. So I didn't get much filming time this month, but I did manage to get some free time to colour here and there. So this one isn't a colour along. I just want to colour something simple and easy when I could fit in some time, and I do adore this book. It is my favourite Lulu Mayo book. So I picked this page here, and what I did is bring through some of the colour palette ideas from last month's pages, which was these two here. So there are a few similar dolphin type pages in this book. So what I did is I brought through the colors from the dolphin, the water, the little girl, this little creature thing here is also the same colors as these, and some of the rainbow colors too. So if you want to try this on your own, you could have a look at that video and follow through with those colors. The only main real difference here is the background. So the background was quick and simple, and I used my Artex Simptap acrylic markers. I used the new 48 set that I've done a review on recently. And if you haven't seen that video, I'm also hosting a giveaway in collaboration with Artex too. So go check that out if you'd like a chance to win those markers. There are 3 prizes to be won, and it ends this weekend. I also used the Simptap acrylic markers on the clouds as well. Now, what I did there, I scribbled my marker onto a palette and then picked the colour up with a water brush just to get a light wash of colour. I just left it at that, but you can go over with pencils if you wanted to add in more shadows or highlights. But I'll lift that up and you can see a very subtle pink colour on the clouds. So the pencil work is all Prismacolor pencils, and there is a tiny bit of sparkle pop here on the bows of the presents. The white paint that you can see here on the seafoam and this moon in the background is from my Light Wish palette. That's linked in my Amazon storefront down below. The magenta, the gold, and the blue, those paints all come from the KJ Designed by Karen palette. And then I've outlined the clouds with my Tooly Art white paint pen. I actually wish I'd left the black lines on the clouds to give their cartoony effect, like I did on last month's pages. I think the effect of leaving them with the black lines did look a bit better, but what's done is done now. And of course, I've also used the white Tooly Art paint pen on the spots of the seafoam as well. And I did do the background in this sort of darker blue because I wanted to have a moon. We've got some stars, so I wanted it to be more of a night sky this time. So that is my page from Lulu Mayo's A Million Sea Creatures this month, and I'll just lift it up so you can see all this sparkle. It's one of my favorite things about Lulu's pages. You can just throw all sorts of mediums at it and they're just so much fun. I mean, we can do purple dolphins, purple and pink dolphins. Okay, so next up, let's look at our final page for today, which is from Hannah Carzon's jewelry box. And this is the page that I coloured here. I absolutely love the background on this page. I was testing out some sparkly paints from a new paint set, and I am in love. This is actually a bit of a sneak peek, as there's going to be a review on the paint set coming very soon. I did decide to keep this to a limited palette. It was actually all pink, but I decided to break it up a little bit with the gold. It actually looks a bit like a dragonfly brooch or a pin to me, so I think the metallic gold does suit it really well. Now, the pencil work is all Prismacolors. There's some gold and magenta paint from KJ Designed by Karen, as well as some pink sparkle pop, which is this sort of lighter pink glittery details. There's some white Tooly Art acrylic paint pen as well to add some accents. Now, I did use on the wings another metallic paint from the new paint palette that I've just reviewed. This colour is very translucent actually, so it sits on top of your colours and you can still see your pencil work underneath, which I thought was brilliant. So it just adds a little bit of sparkle to those wings. So look at that background. I originally was going to put a bit of gold paint splatter on it, but I just wanted to show everybody how sparkly that is, and hopefully it's picking up on camera. That beautiful shine. It's so shimmery. All right, so that is all I have to show you this month. I will be doing an October plans video also, so keep your eye out for that if you want to see what's coming up on the channel. I'd love to know which was your favourite page this month. I think Phantom Morphia may be my favourite, but I probably had the most fun with the intro pages from Rooms of Wonder. And this page here, now I did iron it, and I have filmed for you guys a how I iron my pages video, but I have added in more watercolour paints since I ironed it, so I think I might need to go and give it another run over with the iron here, because it is still a bit warped. I'm just going to put some books on top now and see if I can flatten it out some more. So on that note, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to enter my giveaway if you're interested in the Artex SimTap markers. And just a sneaky hint, I do have another giveaway coming up soon with a different brand and a product, so make sure you are subscribed so you don't miss out. Happy colouring, have a great day, and bye for now.